So a disclaimer right away, these are your thoughts and not mine, but I appreciate everybody's opinions. But out on that old social media at Simon316, I told you, I'm going to read it right here. I said, give me your bonkers and mad wrestling booking ideas, takes or whatever. And now we're going to get into some of them. And we start with White Llama Poo Poo, which is always a very worrying beginning. And he says, or they say I should say, every televised wrestling company should have a 1-week episode where it's all a musical, similar to what sitcoms have done. Well, we did kind of get that in AEW, right? Which seems surreal now with Chris Jericho and MJF. I always appreciated the creativity of that segment. And it did remind me what I liked about wrestling. Goofy wrestling for life. Get it on Pro Wrestling Tees right now and give me your money. Shouldn't have said it. I massively regret it. But no, I don't think you want to overdo stuff like that. I think that was a pandemic thing, and I think it was very of its time. I mostly think that WWE and AEW and most of professional wrestling has a good structure to their shows. Just sometimes they throw things at the wall, and it doesn't stick. Now, look, if you want to do it in terms of a story, at some point, then why the flub not? It is pro wrestling, like I say, it is sports entertainment, the dumbest term of all time, but it should always be a bunch of people get in a room, and as long as every single person agrees, just go out there and do it, even if it absolutely sucks. Who cares, man? It's just wrestling. James Arrington said Umaga's manager Amada Estrada should be Solo's new wise man. I wouldn't be against it. And that guy was great. And did those two ever get split up? I can't remember. But if they had have done, it would have been stupid. It's like when we took Ricardo Rodriguez away from Alberto Del Rio. I think now, in hindsight, we can look back and say old Ricardo was the best part of that act. Joshua wants to ruin the world because he says start implementing official reviews and allow for challenges to questionable calls like every other sport does. I'm tired of these blind referees out. So for my English friends, he's talking about VAR. I can't remember what it's called in the NFL now, but yeah, so you can actually question a referee's call. I wouldn't do that because I just think it's going to get too messy. It's like when AEW tries to do the rankings. When you go to sport, you can't keep up with it. It's next to impossible. And sometimes you do need wrestling shenanigans in order to get out of a certain win or a certain loss, or you need a certain booking angle that can come with it. Like, you're not meant to take wrestling overly seriously, right? It's like anything. If you break it down to the nth degree, eventually you realize it's all a mess on the floor and it is 2 + 2 = potato. So no, that's one of the things I wouldn't do. I don't even want it in football or soccer for my American friends. I want mistakes and I want there to be chaos. That's half the fun. And I know sometimes I'll be mad and sometimes you'll be mad, but you know what? It's really entertaining when the mad isn't that deep, laughing at people that are kind of mad. The honorary Zeus, interesting, I thought you were long gone, says Shane McMahon joins the elite in AEW and him and Tony Khan have a power struggle to recruit members of the roster to their side using money and power as a negotiating tactic. This leads to a month-long civil war saga of us versus them. Now look, here's my opinion. Do I want Shane McMahon to join AEW? I absolutely do, for all the reasons I just mentioned. I want the chaos. I want the craziness. I want to sit there on social media, much like Shane McMahon, much like I did when Shane McMahon won the Best in the World tournament in Saudi Arabia, just watch people melt down. It was so entertaining. I was laughing. I think I had tears in my eyes. And then when we got to do the ups and downs video, make sure you subscribe to What Culture Wrestling too. It was just a wonderful moment for me in my life, and I was genuinely chuckling away. But I don't think we need Shane McMahon at AEW. If Tony Khan does do it, absolutely. I think it probably would get a ratings pop, and I think it could be very interesting depending on how he used. Everybody is of benefit if you can use them in the correct way, but I don't think this is a do or die thing, and I do think sometimes you have to tread carefully because there will be some hardcore fans that won't like that, and you always have to cater to your hardcore fans. I hate this, what's the word I'm looking for? Opinion, I suppose, that some people have. I shouldn't hate people's opinions, but you get what I'm saying. Where they're like, man, you haven't got to worry about the hardcores because they're going to be there each week in and week out. No, that's why you should always have them in the back of your head because they're supporting you till the end, man. And of course, you need to try and get in the new fan as well, and the casual fan, and all the other kind of fans. But just like flicking somebody away in that sense, well, I think it's a little bit insulting. Meat Sport says, I can't wait for Miller versus Danhausen, the comedy wrestling match of all time. I may as well use it as a cheap plug. That's right. August the 8th in Ultimate Pro Wrestling UPW down in Weymouth over here in England. Somehow I'm taking on Danhausen. If you watch any of my content, you know that Danhausen has been my dream match for a long old time, and you can get it on a streaming service too. Search for UPW Ultimate Pro Wrestling. It's called UPW Plus. It usually goes up about 24 hours after the fact. So if you want to get cursed by Danhausen, soon you can. Clint says, if a Britrest promotion was able to do weekly shows at the same time each week using a varied roster and invested in multiple gripping storylines, then it would be hugely successful. I totally agree with you. I love independent wrestling, especially over here, but I think it would have to go on YouTube, which means you're going to have a lot of money because it needs to be cost effective, and I don't think enough people would subscribe to a paid-for service, though I'd love to be proven wrong. I think that you absolutely could find an audience there, because it's like anything. If it is accessible on television and there's great characters and there's great stories and there's good matches, then you're halfway there. That's what Bon Jovi was singing about. The problem absolutely comes down to finances. It's hard to run a show. I think so many people forget about this, and I'm talking about a Triple H or a Tony Khan. I mean, they have amazing funds, but it's still difficult to sit down and have to control multiple egos with multiple stories and multiple angles and multiple other people sort of getting in your ear the whole time. But yes, I would argue that's one thing that maybe Britrest lacks, is a weekly TV show. Progress is very good at it. Rev Pro is very good at it. UPW is very good at it. They absolutely try. We just talked about them. They absolutely try and make their shows more like a Raw, I suppose. Sov Pro is very good at it. I'm going to stop talking because there'll be others I've totally forgotten about, and then I'll feel bad. But again, to have the investment where you can take that product and put it on YouTube and hope to make your money back, it's tough. I guess the last people to do it were WCPW, and that worked really well for a while. We don't need to get into it. But Clint, I agree with you a lot. Tom Williams says, I think the Money in the Bank winner should be allowed to take the briefcase to another company and cash it in and become their world champion. Why does it have to be exclusive? For example, the Money in the Bank winner cashing in on the TNA champion. I mean, I wouldn't be against that at all. I don't want to get too much into this because I've talked about it way too much. You should always be coming up with ways to use that Money in the Bank briefcase in a different way, which is why I was a big fan of CM Punk and Drew McIntyre this year. I thought it was really fun. I thought it's made their feud feel like some kind of death battle. And I like the fact that I'm recording this on Friday. We get SmackDown later, and I can see what Tiffany Stratton is going to do with that briefcase instead. And really, if we are going to have Gunther as the World Heavyweight Champion for a while from SummerSlam, and I don't think even if Cody does lose it, win it, he's ever going to get defeated by the Money in the Bank briefcase or a cash-in, at least not now. It was a good thing to do with it, and you still keep open the doors for something else. But sure, I mean, who is the TNA champion right now? It's Moose. So let's say that, I don't know, a Jey Uso had gone over there. I mean, the problem was it would have been an NXT guy. So I like the idea, but I think it would be really difficult from a relationship point of view. If NXT had their own version of Money in the Bank, or TNA did, they may do TNA, they do have it. I suppose you could do that, but you're really going to have to sit down and ensure there is a back and forth going on. But look, it would get people talking. We've seen that it does have an impact when it comes to ratings and just noise around these promotions. So why the flub not? Aaron says Maxine will turn heel on Otis and join Chad Gable. I mean, you could do that. I think it's a little bit of a push because Maxine is a pretty lovable babyface. But again, sometimes the best lovable babyfaces make for the best heels. But I think if you were going to do that and Chad Gable is going to join the Creed, which I think he will do, you've already got Ivy Nile there. So I suppose you need to sit down and decide who do you think is going to be a better bad guy. My gut would tell me it would be Ivy Nile because she can get in the ring and just flub you up. Whereas Maxine, I think, is a very sympathetic character. So you kind of have that back and forth. But I suppose it could happen. I do believe that the Alpha Academy will get back together before Chad Gable ultimately screws them over again. Maybe after he's won the Intercontinental title, then he better watch his back because the White Six gonna kill him. Jay has been spending too much time on YouTube, as do I, so I can't complain about that because he says Hogan and Russo and Bischoff were sent to destroy TNA. Well, look, they definitely weren't because they were on the outs with WWE at the time. And I tell you the other reason they definitely weren't, because it's still going. So they did a terrible job. Although, to be fair, mate, that doesn't surprise you. You did tell Vince Russo, go and do this. You know what? I'm going to stop the conversation there. NPC Lucky knows how to book wrestling because they said the NXT parking lot should become its very own gimmick match. Like a cross between Loser Leaves Town and an NXT Underground match. You go into the dreaded parking lot and the loser disappears from 3 to 9 months. Well, you say that. Obafemi came out the other day. Love Obafemi. Could be my favorite person right now in wrestling. And said he doesn't fear the parking lot anymore, so he could be the king of the parking lot. So not only is he the North American champion, but if you really want to take him off his throne, you have to go take him out in the NXT parking lot. I do enjoy. Do you know what? I just enjoy NXT all around. I like how silly it can be. I like the characters. I like that it has ongoing storylines. I like the fact that Chase U wrestle in their schoolwear. It just reminds you what fun wrestling can be. And sometimes I still don't think it gets enough love. And the fact that it is increasing in ratings at the moment, I say bravo. Shawn Michaels really good at his job. Joe Fields says the House of Black is the most consistent faction in wrestling and should be dripping in gold. Well, there's clearly a story behind all of that. Actually, what I want to talk about with the House of Black mostly is the amazing selling of Buddy Matthews. I genuinely thought he was hurt in that match. It turned out he was off to get married to Rhea Ripley. Congratulations to those guys. And Rhea Ripley came back recently, which was super duper cool. But there just seems to be a disconnect between what they want to do and maybe what AEW wants to do. But I totally agree. I think as a faction, they're probably one of the best in all of wrestling. Throughout all the companies, they're believable, they're cool, they have an attitude to them, they have an edge. Not Adam Copeland, he is injured as well. So one day I'd imagine the whole story does come out. But yes, I certainly feel like they could have more, and it's weird that they don't. JT last name says, hot potatoing a title can be good for the title in question as long as the story makes sense and you don't do it too much. We've had plenty of lengthy title reigns lately, so maybe it's time for a little back and forth. Totally. And within the next 6 months, I would probably try and change one of the titles on Raw or SmackDown, especially when you move to Netflix, because it keeps the audience guessing. Can't argue there, JT. I agree with you. Jabbery Nath has a great idea. You want to get wild? Okay, hear me out. We invent a time machine and send Obafemi back in time to defeat the Undertaker's streak. Now, one, I agree with this, and two, I just wanted to talk about Obafemi again. He is right now, to me, the definition of what wrestling can be. He's going to get so much better as the weeks, the months, and years go on because he's a human being that's trying really hard. But even now, the character, the way he talks, the way he does matches, I just enjoy watching him. I love 5-star flippy-dippy woo-wah matches, but I love this stuff too, and right now he is absolutely smashing it at the other side, and he just makes me happy. And I look forward to seeing him on TV. Once again, that's all wrestling is. James says, how about we do AJ Styles versus Josh Alexander? I do believe, AJ Styles is in Japan right now, about to do a Noah match, and, obviously Joe Hendry is probably going to be challenging for an NXT title soon, or something like that, so I'd imagine you are going to get a lot more of this, and I think it's just the beginning, and I think it's been awesome. I love crossovers. I love all the AEW stuff. We just had Forbidden Door. I love everything with NXT and TNA, and maybe one day it does go to the main roster. Like, you can go, oh, no, it's never going to happen. Well, if I had told you even 2 years ago that NXT and TNA would be doing this kind of a trade, you would have laughed at me. So it's very exciting time for wrestling. We call it Forbidden Door, but keeping that thing open and the prohibited portal, but keeping that thing open is just best to get the buzz going. And if you can keep the buzz going, which WWE has been very good at now for like 18 months, well, all your numbers are going to increase, and that's the business point of things. So I definitely think we should keep doing it. So I'm not writing it off the table, and it's probably going to be different with AJ, because as he does get to the end of his career, which he keeps talking about, I bet he would love to go back and do a little something with TNA, and that will be a huge boost for them. So yeah, without a doubt. Adnan is here to ruin your day, because he says the grocery store brawl between Booker T and Austin is massively overrated, and there's a conspiracy to keep it so fondly remembered. I can't fathom how it's been this revered all these years, bar a narrative placed around it to make it more of a classic than it is. I think it's just a really fun and entertaining segment, my friend. I don't think you need to get that mad about it. But I respect the fact that you do. I personally love it. I think it's funny. And it's one of those times where you go, oh my gosh, Booker T has range, Steve Austin has range, and together they just had the best chemistry. Courtney says, bring back the World Cup and make it independent of all promotions. Have WWE, AEW, Indies, New Japan, CMLL, TNA, and Ring of Honor, Noah, and any of the Japanese companies. You could even do playoffs within the respective promotions to see who represents them and send them on. Have it be a 2 to 3 day event. It's been like 3 months, more than 2 to 3 days. The problem there is who wins and who loses, and how do you get promoters to all be on the same page? I think it's next to impossible. That is the dream. If you did something called Wrestling Dream Tournament and you were able to do that, and somehow you got everyone to pick just one winner, you would be onto something that would be talked about for years and years and years. There's too many egos in wrestling. There would be too much arguing about finances, and ultimately you wouldn't get what you want. I don't mean to use this as a comparison, but it would be a little bit like the invasion angle in 2001. And we are with Lucy, who usually gets into these videos because she comes up with lots of good ideas. The Ring of Honor Trios titles should be defended exclusively via lingerie pillow fight. So again, it's goofy wrestling for life. Some people get so mad that I like goofy wrestling. I just think it's fun, and it pleases me, and again, I like silly stuff. I'm gonna be dead one day. I don't want everything to be serious. I love it when it is super serious, but I also love it when the Outrunners can go on my TV, have the greatest match I've ever seen with Orange Cassidy. So if anyone from AEW is listening, that's right. And look, you may as well separate the titles, okay? We're about to get even more titles in WWE, so wouldn't it be great if you had like a second lot of trio titles in Ring of Honor, and the only way to do it is by lingerie pillow fight. And I ain't just talking about the women, I'm talking about the men, I'm talking about anyone that wants to get involved. Put Tony Schiavone in a lingerie pillow fight. We're done. Now, of course, please do like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Click the bell on the screen, ding, ding, so you can be notified about all the things. Leave a comment below and say, Simon, these videos are stupid. Click the video on the screen, bam, which is me talking about professional wrestling. Otherwise, it's GorillaMind.com/Simon. Just go to Simon to get 10% off. It's Patreon.com/Simon316. A Go-Go Fitness launches very soon. This is Anthony Agogo's new fitness app that I was able to be involved with, which is very cool. Once again, you can use the code Simon20. There'll be a brand new link in the description. You get 20% off, and see if it's for you. It's a fitness app which is there to get you in shape, but the way Anthony approaches it is just so damn personable, which is why I love it so much. Otherwise, it is Simon316 on all social media platforms. Simon J. Miller on TikTok for dumb videos, Simon Miller for cameo videos and personalized videos. Otherwise, get your stupid wrestling merch. That's about it from me. Take care, my friends. Goodbye.